welcome to Sparkle, and we're happy to be here today. We've got Cris Neves from Brazil. I met Cris in Brazil, Belo Horizonte. She's now living south of there, but she'll tell you her story. And what Sparkle does is we encourage, inspire, and connect women in their faith by stories. And Cris has a fabulous story, and we will also talk to her. She's married. She has 2 children. And Cris, I can't remember how long you've been married, and you're going to have to tell you live in Santa Catarina, I believe, and that's southern part of Brazil. And Cris is a teacher, and she also was a translator for us when we were in Brazil as well. So welcome, Cris.
Hi, Betsy.
You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so my name is Cris. Actually, it's Ana Cristina, but everyone calls me Cris. And yes, I'm living here in the south of Brazil now, in Santa Catarina, beautiful place, by the beach. And I met my husband about 20 years ago. We just turned 20 years of marriage, and it's another story for here. But we got married, we got to know each other. And we got engaged and got married in about 4 months. And it has been more than 20 years ago. And we have 2 children. Actually, they're teenagers now, 17 and 15-year-old. And so good to be here, Betsy.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. Okay, so Cris, can you tell us a faith story, or tell us about how you came to know Christ?
Sure. Well, it's interesting how God does things in His ways, right? So I would tell you the first part where I didn't even know it was part of my testimony as I got to know Christ. But it's interesting because then you realize how God was, already taking care of you and making things in your life that you didn't even realize about it. So I was born in a Catholic family, but you know what? Back then, Catholic people were just pretty much everyone in Brazil, because we were about 80% of the population, 90%. So it was very easy for us to say, okay, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Christian, but I'm a Catholic. But the problem is we never went to church. So I remember going to church 3 times a year, pretty much when my parents were on vacation, and we used to go to Rio. So I remember going to a church there in Rio. But maybe because they worked a lot. But you know what? I realized that I never carried a Bible. I have never even opened a Bible, until I was 27 years old. So I didn't realize, how that would change my life back then, and I didn't care about it because, okay, we're Catholic and that's it, But then when I was about 20 years old, I started dating this boy, and we dated for 4 years. And the fun thing is that, we didn't even have a nice connection. But in the last year that we were dating, I was about 24 years old. I'm going to take my glass off because it's giving a reflection here. So when I was 24 years old, I remember that I went to church, to evangelical church, Baptist church, about 5 times, each time in a different church. And the thing that I remember the most, that I don't even remember if we really watched the whole service or not, if we're there for the whole time, because I only remember the worship service moment, because it touched me in such, a deep way that I was to cry the whole time. I was just crying. I remember leaving there, with my eyes red from crying. And but then that was it. We went like 5 times, and I remember after the 5th time, my dad came to me and said once, he was kind of mad at me, and he said, "You know what? This is not a mass, and you're not going anymore." And the thing is, he didn't even go to church, to tell me that. But we know that, the enemy tries to stop us from, using many methods, and many times he uses people that we love the most. So that I remember very well. And it was funny, Betsy, you know what? When I was thinking about this story to bring here, I thought that, from the moment I went to this Baptist church the first time until when I accept Christ, for me, it was like, 1 year space. And then I realized that I was about 24 years old. And then I only accept Christ in my life at the 27. So it was a longer time than I thought.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens though, because, it takes us a long time to understand and for God to really reveal to us what it is to come to know Christ.
Yes. So it's a process, right?
Mm-hmm. It can be a process. I think some people it's a process. Some people immediately get it. You know what I mean? So you hear everybody's story is different.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought it happened to my life, And then really, the moment when I accept Christ, I need to tell you in another time because it's a longer story. But I thought it was that, it was for the first time I was there, and it was that. But then I realized that it began back there, when I was 24 years old. I didn't even knew about it.
It was like a seed.
Realizing.
It was like a seed or something that was planted in you. And then suddenly you recognize what it was, and then you accepted it.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I love that because you were raised in an environment where it was just religion. It wasn't a personal relationship, and that's probably what you began to understand. But it was the personal relationship. Now, what would you tell people, Cris, now, if you were to tell people one thing? Can you think of something you would share or want people to know to understand more how that worked in your life?
Yes, and it was interesting. And I wanted to tell you that when I was about 25 years old, and my grandma was about 85, I remember visiting her, and she wasn't at home. So I went, I knew she would be at church because she used to go to church. And when I got there, the father, he was depressed. And it's okay, we could go through that. That's no problem at all. But the problem that he was talking like that, and I couldn't understand what he was saying. And then I looked at my grandma and I said, "Grandma, are you understanding anything Father Toninho is saying? Because I can't understand him." And that changed my life completely, because her answer was, "You know what? No, I can't understand what he's saying, but I have memorized everything. So for me, it's okay." And then from that day on, Betsy, I realized that I didn't want that in my life. I wanted to be able to go to church and receive something back, to go there and be shared the message with, with me. I wanted to understand something, or receive an answer for something, or understand about something that I didn't know. I just didn't want something memorized,
Yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying, because it's real. Suddenly you realize it's real what this is. It's not just a religion. But it's interesting to me because living in Brazil, I realized I was on the same page with people that had faith like you, Cris. I mean, we became instant friends because we share the same faith. And it wasn't anything contrived or anything we worked on or anything that we sought out. We just met and we knew we were both had the same faith. And it just kind of, it's like a unity, it's like a sisterhood or, whatever. But I so appreciate your friendship and appreciate you coming on to Sparkle and telling your story. Is there anything else you want to add quickly?
Well, I do appreciate so much as well. And I remember, I know that every time every city I have passed by, I have the same feeling, that you just had, the sisterhood that, people just receive us in a different way, because we share the same.
Same faith. No, I
So
love that. I love that. All right. Well, thank you, Chris.
thank
And
you.
even though you're thousands of miles away, we can talk and share stories. I love that.
That's
So
so good.
we'll talk soon. And thank you for joining us on Sparkle. And
Thank
we'll see you
you.
on the show. Yes.